What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Before we get too deep in this video, you already know what I'm going to say. Be sure to comment, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. You see, I'm giving you exclusive access to Commanders training camp, and it's not going to stop. It's going to be this way all season. So you're going to want to make sure that you're not missing any of the most raw, unfiltered, and the most honest coverage of the Washington Commanders. So to give you a timestamp, as I do for all of my videos, today is Monday, July the 29th, and the Commanders actually just concluded day 5 of Commanders training camp 2024, and today was actually the first day that they were in pads. So they started to crack some skulls, like my man Greg Minuski said. So football is really in the air now, because as a former football player myself, I know that football is different once you put the pads on. Some players shine when the pads are on. Some players look like some completely different guys, whether that be good or in a negative light. But yeah, I'm super excited. I was unfortunately wasn't able to be out there today. I'll be back boots on the ground in Ashburn on Thursday. But if you haven't checked out our episode of the Day 4 recap that we dropped yesterday, be sure to check that out, because we were boots on the ground live in Ashburn yesterday, giving you the most raw, uncut, and unfiltered analysis of everything that we saw from a first person's point of view. It's not a coincidence that, we were the first page to talk about Derek Forrest in our little time out there yesterday. Now all of a sudden, John Coleman and JP, shout out to those guys, but they had been out there 3 days before we did. But I think that we were the first to talk about Derek Forrest's place on the depth chart. Now it's becoming a trend that I'm noticing. So, they're paying attention over here at Bleeding B&G, so you should as well. But yeah, if you haven't checked out that episode, if you really want to know what's going on with your Washington Commanders, go ahead and check that out, because these, reading these tweets from the beat reporters are beautiful and things like that. But as I mentioned yesterday, I don't think that they know football like me. So me being able to be boots on the ground in Ashburn, looking at it from a first-person point of view, is extremely beneficial. And it was from my eyes, from my mouth to your guys' ears, of everything that went down in Ashburn. So I think that if you guys really want to know what's going on, please go ahead and check out that episode. But today we're still going to be reading these tweets. But you want to make sure that you tap into the channel, because on Thursday we'll be back boots on the ground, and the guys will have pads on, because as I mentioned before, today was the first day in pads. So let's get to the sights and sounds that came out of Ashburn and all the doings that came out of Ashburn today. So, of course, before practice, we had Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference. And here are some highlights that came out of that. Dan Quinn said that Andrew Wiley will be back on the field. Went through some work Sunday. Listen to that. Went through some work Sunday, but no full team sessions. Said he had tightness in his unspecified area. The reason that I want to harp on that and I want to emphasize that is because some guys called me liars based off of my video yesterday when I said that Andrew Wiley was out there doing individual work and looking bad. Because some of the beat reporters did report that he didn't do anything yesterday and that he wasn't out there. I don't know what the fuck they were watching, because I saw Andrew Wiley out there in individuals and he didn't do any team drills. So to see John Coleman, and I'm not saying that he was the beat reporter that said Andrew Wiley wasn't out there, but to see him double back and say that Andrew Wiley did go through some individual sessions let me realize, like, my eyes aren't tripping. I don't know if these guys are just making up reports off of guys that they like. I don't know if they're really just not paying attention to practice. But Andrew Wiley was out there yesterday, on Sunday, getting his ass whipped in individuals. And like I said in my episode yesterday, he was moving gingerly. He was moving rather marginalized. So I'm not surprised to hear that he had some tightness. But it seems like he was back out there today, and let's see how today had planned out as we look through the rest of these tweets. But Dan Quinn still touching on Andrew Wiley. I feel so vindicated, because it was people saying that he wasn't out there making Bleeding B&G look like we was liars. I feel so vindicated right now, because the truth will always set you free. Yes, it will. Quinn says he's more comfortable with the punt return situation than the kick returns now. The front sounds more about the process than the personnel. Obviously, the changes of the kickoff were rather dramatic. Absolutely. So if you guys don't know, they're actually changing the kickoffs this year. It's going to look completely different. You don't have guys lining up at the 45 and things of that nature. It's going to resemble a lot, if you guys watch the UFL this year, it's going to be their kickoff essentially, where most guys are lined up almost like 10 yards away, like 10 to 15 yards away from where the actual returner will catch the ball, almost giving guys like a head full of steam. Not necessarily, but they're working in tight spaces, going against each other, and things of that nature. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see with the Hall of Fame game actually being this Thursday, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that Dan Quinn has some nervousness about this as well, just the nervousness of the unknown and the uncertainties, because we really don't know what this is going to look like. But to hear that he's more comfortable with the punt return situation kind of tells me that Jamison Crowder's spot might be more locked in than I thought that it was initially. If you guys can go back to my 53-man roster projection, I didn't initially have Jamison Crowder making the 53-man roster, but being out there in Ashburn yesterday, it seems like Jamison Crowder was the only one that really taking the punt return drill serious. Mikey Sanders still had a couple of good reps as well, and I wouldn't mind seeing Mikey Sanders still back there, but he did drop a pass in his last rep, and it seems like Jamison Crowder is pretty much locked in as the punt returner as of July 29th, 2024. Keep going on with the Dan Quinn presser. Dan Quinn said that they'll start using Johnny Newton in some team drills soon. Not today, but soon. No limitations for him, but they want to ramp him up after recovering from a second foot surgery. If you've been on the channel, you know that I was kind of pessimistic about Johnny Newton's recovery. So to hear that he's coming back, I saw him actually out there yesterday, and he didn't do team drills. He didn't do he did do individuals, excuse me, but he didn't do any team drills or of that nature. So to hear that he's just really working and ramping himself up, because this is a guy that hasn't really been around football since his last collegiate season last year. He went straight into the draft process where he had 1 foot surgery, and then after the draft had a 2nd foot surgery. So this is a guy that's over 300 pounds, so it's going to take a minute to ramp him up. But to see that he'll kind of be all go, no holds barred in a couple of days is exciting to hear, because I can't wait, because he's one of the guys that I was really waiting to see when the pads come on, because I think that he's violent in his physical style of play, and he can really be a guy that, you know, shines with the pads on rather than them not being on. Same thing, Johnny Newton has no limitations. Dan Quinn said they haven't made a final determination on the number of quarterbacks they'll keep on the final 53, but what I can say is I'm pleased with the group of 4 we have here. That's a quote from Dan Quinn. I honestly think that they do end up keeping 3 guys. I think that, Sam Hartman is a guy that's going to be on the fringe. We know that Jaden Daniels and Marcus Mariota are pretty much locked in, and Sam Hartman and Josh Driscoll are essentially battling. And me being boots on the ground yesterday wasn't the best example of how the competition is going, because all the quarterbacks were off yesterday, if I'm being completely honest. So Josh Driscoll or Sam Hartman didn't necessarily stand out. But just to hear that, he's pleased with the 4 that they have here. And I think that the relationship that Sam Hartman and Jaden Daniels is building is helping put like a feather in Sam Hartman's cap as well, in terms of him, either being on the roster or being on the practice squad and not being let go. Because having a guy that has a positive relationship with your presumed to be franchise quarterback is always a good thing, right? Back to Johnny Newton. Dan Quinn on Brandon Coleman. I knew he was a very good athlete, but one of the things I've been impressed with is how he has great balance for a big guy. He is very rarely someone who is out of position. He is a very in-control player as an offensive lineman, and that's a real, I don't know what he said after that. It was a continuation, continuous of a quote. But yeah, I said that yesterday. Brandon Coleman, yeah, he's fucking huge. He's huge, and to see that his RAS score is actually translating. He had over a 9 RAS raw athletic score. He had one of the highest testing raw athletic scores for a guard or a tackle in NFL combine history. So to see that type of athleticism is translating on the field is a positive sign. And let's see that if he can, translate that athleticism into LT1 job or the starting left tackle job. Come the first week in September when we get, all wheels going in the regular season. So now on to the field work. So the command center, they actually had some coverage from today's practice. So we see Jaden and Sam coming out per usual. It's Sam Hartman's birthday today. Happy birthday, Sam. Jaden said he turned 30 jokingly, but Jaden, you old as hell too. If Sam 30, you 29, Jaden. We done brought in some old ass rookie quarterbacks, I will say. JP Finley said different vibe today. The pads are on. Scott Fitterer, the former Panthers GM and recently hired exec for the Commanders, is here standing with Lance Newmark. Starting the day with kickoff return drills. Guys catching kicks: Austin Eckler, Demir Bird, Mikey Sammerstill, Olamide Zaccheaus. Who is Davis? I think that's number 14. I don't know his first name right now. Dax Mill, Kaz Allen. I don't know why Kaz Allen was the only one that got first name basis. His first name preference. Jahan Dotson, Jamison Crowder, and Emmanuel Forbes. So it looks like, what Dan Quinn said in that pre-draft presser is actually like true, that they're not sure what they want to do with the kickoff return. This is like 9 guys that they got back there, and that just shows me that they're not sure who they want necessarily back there. After watching a couple of UFL games, to be honest, I think that a running back might be the best to be at that position. A guy that can make short, precise, quick cuts and things of that nature, and also work in tight spaces. And then not necessarily the longest of striders. So I'm not surprised to see a guy like Austin Eckler back there. But I think that a guy like Kaz Allen, who had a breakout day 1 of camp, I think that he can fit that bill as well. First day of pads, we got Fedarian Mathis. That's like seeing Bigfoot in the summertime. Fedarian Mathis out there on the field is like seeing Bigfoot in the summertime. But it seems like he's excited to be out there for the first day of pads. Excited to see what he can do because I think that he's firmly in a roster competition for his roster spot. Terry McLaurin is in the receiver running routes on air. So I'm not sure if this was in the team session, but it says Wiley back at right tackle, Coleman back at left tackle. Nice. Well, so it looks like Brandon Coleman might be your starting left tackle come September. And for us to be able to draft, if it comes, I'm not saying that this has happened, but if we look down 3 years down the line and we drafted our franchise quarterback and our franchise cornerstone left tackle, Adam Peters knocked his first draft as a GM of the Washington Commanders absolutely out the fucking park. If that is what comes to fruition out of this draft class, you can't give this draft class anything outside of an A+. If you draft your future franchise quarterback and your future cornerstone left tackle, you a bad motherfucker. Excuse my French. But you come here for the most raw, uncut, and unfiltered analysis, and we're going to give it to you. And just hearing that a guy like Brandon Coleman is starting on the first day of pads at the left tackle position is something that I'm excited for. Now, me personally, I would be sliding my man Big Cornelius Lucas over there at the right tackle. He has experience as a swing tackle, but I can't let the fact that he's not dim the fact that Brandon Coleman is the starting left tackle at this moment. And Zach Selby said that he did a nice job sealing off his blocker, allowing Brian Robinson in lane for a touchdown. We got a DB drill here. I watched this drill yesterday as well. Just a tackling, tracking the hip drill. They didn't have pads on yesterday, so they were tracking the hip. But today they just studded. You see some good physicality from number 38 here. I'm not sure who was the runner there. We'll watch Mikey Sanders still come up. Lay a decent pop. It looks like the runner didn't really want some smoke. And he hesitated. I would have loved to see him go full effort against Mikey Sanders still. Because the only questions I have about Mikey is his ability to be physical in the NFL at his size. Jaden Daniels getting the first reps in 11v11 for the first time in training camp. Yes, Marcus Mariota was getting the first 11 quarterback 1 reps in the team sessions for the duration of camp. Is something that I saw when I was in Ashburn yesterday, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that it seems as if Jaden Daniels surpassed him on the depth chart on the first day of camp, because to be honest, he could have supplanted him a long time ago, because Marcus Mariota looked like ass yesterday. I told you that, holding on to the ball. It just looks like they were just getting Jaden acclimated. Something that's been a trend over the course of the training camp. You know, he had his first press conference. He wasn't named starter then, so he couldn't get any questions about putting the team on his back or anything of that nature. So yeah, he's getting quarterback 1 reps, and that's exciting to see. They started with goal line work. And Brandon Coleman is right there in the huddle with him as his left tackle. That's the plan. You see what JP Finley said? That's the plan. And boy, I hope that plan can be a successful one. Crowder wraps up the 2-point conversion drill with the wide open TD from Driscoll. Sound like some threes working together. Mitch Tischler said the other OLs to pay attention to is Michael Dieter. He's been taking first team reps over Nick Allegretti for a few practices now. So is Michael Dieter going to end up being your day 1 starter at the left guard position? I'm glad I didn't overlook that for my man Big Mitch Tischler. Chris Rodriguez told me the other day he was looking forward to the first day in pads after catching a pass from Mariota. He laid a lick on 2 defenders before getting out of bounds. That makes sense because Chris Rodriguez is an uber physical runner, but he shed a lot of weight. He almost didn't look like the 2023 version of Chris Rodriguez yesterday, but he did have some pop. So to see that he's still running with that same physicality is exciting to hear. Everybody's favorite player, Tress Way, being Tress Way. Jaden Daniels gets a TD on a catch and run from Zacchaeus. So it looks like Jaden had a better practice than yesterday. Because I don't think he threw any touchdowns in the team session yesterday. So that was a touchdown to Zacchaeus. And then Zach Selby said Daniels throws a touchdown to Daniels. Must have been a typo because I don't know how he threw it to himself unless he went Lamar Jackson on us. You see the scene from fans. You see it looked like this yesterday. I love the fact that the fans are out there, but I was so annoyed because I was packed in like sardines. But I loved it. I loved the support. Keep coming out. Keep supporting you guys. I'll be back out there, boots on the ground with you guys come Thursday. But you see, the excitement, the fanfare is real. The community is back. This is what having promise and bringing in a franchise quarterback can do. Some indie work with Terry McLaurin. So apparently it was a typo, and Jaden Daniels actually threw that touchdown to Eckler. So it seems like he threw 2 touchdowns in the team session. A vast improvement from what we saw yesterday. I mean, it wasn't that Jaden wasn't necessarily bad yesterday, but we didn't necessarily see many splash plays other than the read option run that you guys saw blow up on social media. Shout out to my men, Reedy and Z, for actually posting that. Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. Some throws on air. Another view of the fan turnout. This gets the end zone view. So, yeah, excitement is real, man. Excitement is real. Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louisville, teacher and pupil. What did I tell you guys yesterday? Hey, these beat writers, these beat reporters, they tuned in to Bleeding B&G because they're using a lot of the same language and the same vernacular that we've been using over the course of the last couple of days that I didn't necessarily see them using in the first couple of days that they had been out there that I wasn't privy to. But what did I tell you yesterday? Frankie Louisville is pretty much attached to the hip of Bobby Wagner. And right now, you can tell that while Bobby Wagner can still get it done, Frankie Louisville is like his protege that just has a little bit more juice at this point in his career. Jonathan Allen going through some indie work. I was excited to see the D-line yesterday, guys, because Daryl Tapp and Sharif Floyd are out there doing some real coaching. And we still got 2 of the most talented defensive tackles in the entire NFL in Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. So if they can get some real coaching and be told some real things that will be applied to an NFL setting and not get coaching from a high schooler like Brett Wieselmeyer did with the DBs last year, I'm excited to see how they can take their games to the next level along with Johnny Newton. Zach Ertz was at the podium post-practice today. He's addressing the media. He said Jaden Daniels as a QB has been impressive since he joined the team. Zach Ertz and Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think I've ever seen Cliff Kingsbury so happy. Yeah, because Zach Ertz was with him in Arizona and Cliff had to babysit Kyler Murray. That's why Cliff wasn't happy. He's refreshed. Earth says working with Jaden has rejuvenated Cliff and himself too. So you're seeing the gravity, the gravitational pull that just the persona and the personality that Jaden Daniels has starting to just wear off on not only his teammates but the coaching staff as well. And lastly, Emmanuel Forbes going through some indies. Shout out to my man Scar Abraham. As I mentioned yesterday, Forbes' weight gain is evident. It wasn't just talk. I'm excited to see how he can bounce back from a dog shit rookie year that he had in 2023. So that'll do it for day 5 of Commanders training camp. The recap. Hopefully you feel more in tune with the sights and sounds coming out of Ashburn and everything going on with your favorite Washington Commanders. As always, though, if you're not following us on social media, please make ssure you do at BleedingBNG on X. That's at BLEEDIN BNG on X. On Instagram, it's at BleedingBNG BLEEDING BNG. And yeah, please tap into the page. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I got videos coming out every day, and you're going to want to make sure that you don't want to miss it. Thank you, guys. I'll check in on you guys later. Peace.